Are you ready to learn to live a life that is overflowing with victory and empowerment? Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Lane. Dr. Lane is a board-certified obstetrician and gynecologist. She is committed to addressing health holistically from the mind, body, and soul.
Hi, this is Dr. Antherica Lane with Conversations with Dr. Lane. Let's talk about those things that we do not have time to discuss during an appointment. Let's talk about your finances, business, education, relationships. If I can empower you to make healthy decisions in these areas, I am convinced your mind will be more focused and more open to a conversation about your health.
Turn up the volume. Get ready for Conversations with Dr. Lane.
Well, hello, this is Dr. Antherica Lane. I'm so excited to just be with you again today. And shout out to the podcast family. Thank you for supporting the show. Today is part 2 of my conversation with Stevie B of Stevie B Media Productions. I hope you're encouraged by this show and even inspired. Here we go. Well, hello, this is Dr. Antherica Lane with Conversations with Dr. Lane. I am always so excited to have you in the audience, whether you are online watching the video version or whether you are on the Conversations with Dr. Lane podcast. I am so happy to have Stevie B of Stevie B Media Productions here again today. Hopefully, you did not miss our first show with Stevie B and Kelly Fletcher, but if you did, go back, watch it. It's absolutely wonderful. But we want to spend a little more time with you, Stevie. We need to get to know you.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. Certainly appreciate it.
So you had mentioned before that you were in the military. And while you were in the military, as we learned from your bio, you had many opportunities to share the gospel. Why was it so important for you to share the gospel of Jesus Christ?
Because that's just who I was as a Christian. And I've always had an evangelistic mindset. So no matter where I went, part of my deployment package, just like you're packing your gear to go on your deployments,
Yes.
I had my Bibles, my song books, my communion cups. All of that was part of my packing list.
Wow.
Because I knew wherever I was going, I still had to minister to these soldiers.
Yes.
And that's what I did. And when I was in Somalia, my commander allowed me to use the command tent to hold services on Sunday morning in the base camp.
Wow.
So on Sunday morning, you could hear my voice ringing throughout that base camp, preaching the gospel,
Right.
Because I was able to see the soldiers once we were deployed. These soldiers were afraid for their lives. They didn't think they was going to make it back home to their loved ones.
Yes.
So we got to talking about, well, what about your soul? So we had to deal with those soul issues.
Yes.
And we was dealing with them during deployment. So that's why I was there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. I mean, that spiritual health aspect is so important and really contributes to your mental health, your physical health. That spiritual health really is a wonderful foundation for all of your health. So you're really providing them with a really a safety net for those difficult times. Tell us a little bit more about how you converted an entire Baptist congregation.
On social media, I have biblical discussion groups, and there was a Baptist preacher in one of those groups, and me and him became good friends, and we began to conversate and discuss scriptures and whatnot. So he saw the error of his ways, and he obeyed the gospel. And by him obeying the gospel, I've made him aware that now you have influence over other people in your congregation. If you thought it was good enough for you, then you need to share it with them as well. And I got in contact with some brethren in that area and told them about his congregation. And they went down to minister to them as well. And they was able to get the rest of that congregation converted through his conversion.
Wow, that's so powerful. That shows you the power of God's word.
Yes,
And
yes,
yeah, just absolutely wonderful that you were used as a messenger in that way. Absolutely wonderful. And it's very apparent that you have a spirit that you're always thinking of others, just in how you have shared your platform with me and Conversations with Dr. Lane. You shared your platform with Kelly Fletcher and the Kelly Fletcher Show. It's just, I think that's one of your gifts, that you are a bridge builder and you have a way of really thinking about others, but really enhancing their life in some capacity. Do you feel that way about yourself?
Well, I don't think that's the way I was feeling, but that's just the way things was happening,
Yeah,
because social media is about networking
it
anyway.
is. Yeah.
And we're supposed to always try to encourage other people. And especially when you come in contact with someone who's not a child of God, nobody wants to hear that they're wrong. So we just have to have that spirit where we are a lover of souls, regardless. So I always try to find common ground to where I can meet. We can meet somewhere in the middle, so we can have a discussion about the Word of God, and that's why I've always tried to come down with various people that you run into on social media and just in the world in general. I'm always running my mouth out here in these streets because you just meet people every day. You just never know what kind of influence you can have on people.
Right.
Either they're going to influence you or you're going to influence them.
Right.
So I try to be an influencer for good, so I'm going to let my light shine. So I'm going to do that no matter where I go,
Yeah,
that's who I am,
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. If you are just tuning in, this is Dr. Antherica Lane with Conversations with Dr. Lane. And we are having a conversation with Stevie B of Stevie B Media Productions. So, Stevie, let's get back to some of the shows. You have a lot of shows that you do on blogtalkradio.com. There's one show in particular, the Gospel Light Radio Show. Let's talk to the audience about that show.
Now, on this show, the primary objective for this show is to preach and teach the glorious gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what that show is all about. I have 8 co-hosts who are working with me on that show, and these are faithful gospel preachers throughout the brotherhood of the churches of Christ. And I also have a segment on that show called Shouted Out Questions. That's one of my platforms on Facebook. That's how I got into the radio, because of that platform. Okay. So what I decided to do, I take a question from that platform and bring it to the Gospel Light Radio Show. So one of my co-hosts can answer that question on the air. And what I do, I learned this from my previous shows, Five Guys in the Bible Radio Show. We was trying to answer the questions off the top of our head. But what I learned from that, I give the questions to my co-hosts a week in advance so they can give us some good, thorough answers to these questions. I don't want no answers off the top of your head. Right. I want you to do some studying and get some Bible correct answers, because we have people's soul hanging in the jeopardy here,
Yes.
But I was going to say, I wanted to give you the names of my co-hosts that are actually working with me. You might know some of them.
Okay.
Stanley Hubbard, he's the evangelist for the Kingsley Terrace Church of Christ in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Yes.
You ever heard of Stanley Hubbard?
I sure have.
Okay. Dr. Frank Washington Jr., his father is Billy Washington down in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I know you heard of him.
Yes, definitely.
He's with the West Broward Church of Christ in Plantation, Florida. And Clay Phillips, he serves with the evangelist with the Rose City Church of Christ in Thomasville, Georgia. Powerful preacher. I'm proud of that brother there. And Steve Cordell, he serves the East Park Church of Christ in Danville, Illinois. He's been with me for a few years. And I just picked up Johnny Morris out of Macon, Georgia. He just started last week, actually. So he
Wow.
hasn't actually spoken on the show. His first lesson will be in February.
Okay.
He just started with us. Glenn McMillian, he serves with the Waterview Church of Christ in Richardson, Texas. And Brian Christian Coleman, he's with the Morristown Church of Christ in Morristown, New Jersey. He was just appointed as the assistant minister there in Morristown. And Yusuf Al Ford, he serves the Livingstone Church of Christ in Indianapolis, Indiana. That's Kelly's preacher.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you have preachers from all over the country, which really tells you the power of your reach and this type of platform. I like that you have different perspectives from different areas of the country, different congregations. So that's extremely valuable.
Yes. And I got 8 of them.
I know.
Now imagine on that Tuesday night show when I first started that I had so many preachers on that show. I had to cut back the production. I had too many preachers coming through there.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. Now, how do they come up with their topic? Do you give them a topic or do they come up with the topic themselves?
I give them the option to do their own lessons.
Mm-hmm.
That's their choice.
Okay. All right. Well, that's absolutely wonderful. And I like the concept that you're wanting the audience to have Bible-based answers. I think that's something that we always need to go back to. What does the Bible actually say?
The Bible say. That's right. So if you go to that Shout It Out platform on Facebook, you'll see those questions that are being asked on that platform. There's some good questions too. My co-host, Glenn McMillian, this past Thursday night, this segment's only 15 minutes. That brother took 45 minutes to answer that question.
Oh, wow.
But it was okay because I normally have 3 speakers on the show, and that night I only had 2 speakers, so it was fine that he went over that way.
Yeah,
it was all good.
Yeah, that's all good. That's good to have individuals that are excited about sharing the word for sure. I wanted you to talk about some of the artists that you have shared on the show. Who are some of those artists that we should be looking out for, maybe streaming their albums? I know you talked about my brother John, Exodus 2.0.
Yeah, Exodus 2.0 just released their album. They just released their 2023 album, The Lord Is in This Place, featuring Terry Moore Mays.
Yeah.
I love Terry Mays. Also, Straight Company just released their album, a 2020 album, AMG Amazing Magnificent God League. And all of these people that I'm talking about now have been on my shows debuting their albums.
Yes.
Anthony Carter just released his album, his My All album. Now, Anthony was on tour with me last year. Wow. He was one of the headliners on the Experience Acapella tour last year. Also, Anissa Cooper from Memphis, Tennessee, released her album Stronghold, and she was one of the headliners on tour with us. Rain, Realizing the Innate Need, out of Orlando, Florida, they just released some new singles. They was on tour with us as well. Now, next month, Ron Walker from Atlanta, Georgia, he'll be releasing his album, Mind, Body, and Soul, 2023 album, Mind, Body, and Soul. So he's had a few artists that are singing on that album, Tiffany Bumpus, and it's another, I can't even think of his name, but they just released new singles that they're singing on that Ron Walker album. And Genesis Archer out of Jacksonville, Florida, just released a new single, Happy. Teray Mack out of Jacksonville, Florida, just released his new single, You Said. Shano from Hollywood, Florida, he was a member of the 4 Christian Stars. He just released this new single. It's just so many artists out here. Dwayne Pugh and Brad MacArthur just released their album. Well, their album was released in 2019, Life in Music, and they came on the show, and that's a great album. If you hadn't had a chance to hear that album, Life in Music, I play some of those tracks all the time. It's just so many artists out here.
Yeah.
Now my head just went blank. I got so much in my head right now. But
I
it's
know.
but one thing I do say about what I'm doing on Friday night, I also feature comedians. Now let me tell you about these comedians.
Okay.
Since I've been featuring comedians on the show, the Renaissance Church of Christ in Atlanta, Georgia, they have comedians come in and do shows at their
Mhm.
congregation. And one of the comedians that they featured the one weekend when we was on tour in Atlanta was one of the same comedians that I feature on my shows.
Oh,
And I'm
nice.
like, okay, I see people are starting to pay attention to these funny bones I'm doing on Friday night. So you just never know your reach.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's really cool. I like the concept of the comedians adding in the comedian. I'm
yeah,
really excited to hear Ronald Walker's album. I mean, he's a
yeah,
legend in the Church of
yes.
Christ, just extremely, extremely talented. Of
Hmm.
course, I might be a little biased, but I absolutely love my brother's album. The Lord is in this place,
Oh, that's an
from
excellent album.
Exodus
Exodus
2.0.
2.0. Yes, yes. I
Just some
love Exodus
beautiful,
2.0.
beautiful work
Yes,
there. And
yes.
I've been really impressed in general with the production level of many of the
Right,
artists coming out of the Church of Christ.
right.
They've really been raising the bar over the years. Wouldn't you
Yes,
agree?
yes. They have stepped up their game, and I've actually had artists tell me, Stevie B, now we know where to bring our music when we
Yes.
release it because they know they're gonna get some airplay. You know,
Yes.
so I'll be. That's all I've been doing since 2016 is putting out new music.
Wow. Yeah.
There's a lot of music that a lot of people just have not heard.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know. And
For
so my
sure.
playlist on Friday night, half of that playlist is new singles.
Wow.
I try to mix in the melody airs and the soul influenced groups like that too.
Hmm.
They hadn't put out anything new, but Sounds of Love. What's the name of it? The Shady Acres. Remember Shady Acre out of Houston,
Yes.
Texas?
Yes.
They just released a new EP, Sounds of Love.
Oh, wow.
So they just released that. So they got some great music. And part of that group, Shady Acres, is Vision. You've heard of Vision
I have.
out of
Yeah.
Houston, Texas. They
Uh-huh.
released the 2019 album While I'm Still Young. And that whole album is nice. So the sound quality is excellent for what these artists are producing. That's why I'm just proud. I boast on these artists. On
Yes.
Friday night, I'm boasting. And when we
Yeah.
was on tour, that's what I was doing. I was boasting because I
Yeah.
because I know what we're putting out is some good music.
Yes, yes, for sure. What do you have coming up in the future? Do you have any projects that you'd like to just kind of let us start thinking about looking for what's in the future for Stevie B?
Oh man. Stevie B just trying to get through this next playlist that I'm doing on the third Friday of the month because I got a top 20 countdown show that I'm doing every
Okay.
third Friday of the month. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a new top 20 countdown. This is a
Mm-hmm.
new list that the board of directors have put together for Stevie B Media Production. So it's going to be hot. So that's what we got going on. That'll be next Friday night, actually.
Yeah, so let the audience know how to access your show and what time on. We've talked about a Tuesday show, a Thursday show, and a Friday show. So let's get some of these times down so everyone knows, and
Okay.
whether it's Eastern time, Central time, just so
Okay.
that we can know when to catch your show.
Now on Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the month, because I don't do shows every Tuesday at the same time. The first Tuesday of the month is my week off.
Okay.
I'm off the first Tuesday of the month, but the second, third, and fourth Tuesday of the month, we're doing 3 different productions. And one of your shows is one of the productions on the third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. But on that second Tuesday of the month, that shows from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 to 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I have I have a special guest speaker from the Brotherhood of the Churches of Christ on that Tuesday night show. And I also have the Community Corner segment for small business owners and entrepreneurs. And also one of my co-hosts, it'll either be Lou Gilbert from the Oak Park Church of Christ there in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or Isa Mullins from the Church of Christ in Cary, North Carolina. So that's what's happening on the second Tuesday of the month. On the third Tuesday of the month, we have Conversations with Dr. Lane.
Hey,
So that's what's happening on the third Tuesday of the month. And her show airs from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That'd be
Yes.
6 to 7 p.m. Central Standard
Yes.
Time.
Mhm.
Yes. And the fourth Tuesday of the month, we have the Kelly Fletcher Show.
Yeah,
And Kelly does domestic topics, child abuse, spousal abuse, human trafficking. Kelly does some great shows. I'm
Yeah.
really proud of Kelly, the work she's been doing. And then on Thursday night, the Gospel Light Radio Show airs from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I have 8 co-hosts on that show. And each week I have 2 co-hosts on the air with me. And another co-host will be answering our shouted out question on that show. And those brothers are preaching. Those brothers are preaching. I'm telling you. Those brothers, I'm so proud of the work that we're doing on that Gospel Light Radio Show. But on Friday night, ladies and gentlemen, that show will air from 9 to 11 p.m., 8 to 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I am letting my hair down on Friday night. I let my hair down. I'm having a good time on that show. And you can tell. And I'm featuring comedians on that show. We got my song of the week, my monthly triple spin, my old 100s. And I want to give a shout out to General Connor. She passed a few years ago, but she was very instrumental in me starting that Friday night show. She worked in television, and she gave me the idea of bringing comedians to the show. That was her idea. So I dedicate that old 100 segment to her because she said I got to play some music for the old folk too on the show. So
Right.
that's why that feature comes from, because of what she said to me.
Nice.
So I dedicate that feature to her on every show. And then I have my song of the week, and I dedicate that feature to Linda Dilly. Linda Dilly was killed by a drunk driver back in 2021. She was a big fan of the show. She wrote all the questions for the artists that we interviewed on that radio show. And I'm going to tell you a story about Linda Dilly. Her family, she would try to get her family to listen to my shows, and her family never would listen to the shows. So when Linda was killed, her sister reached out to me. This is a true story. Linda was killed on a Wednesday. I didn't know about her death until that Saturday. But that Friday night, when I did that Friday night show, Linda was the first person I gave a shout out to on that show. I had no idea she had been killed.
Oh, wow.
So when her sister contacted me the next day, I mean, that just broke my heart.
Right.
And to this day, when I think about it, but her sister told me, she said, Linda would always try to get us to listen to your shows, but we never did. And we had to find out who was this Stevie B guy that Linda was always talking about. Because she was just so excited to be a part of the show.
Right.
So Linda, she wrote all the questions. And when I play my song of the week, and I do it every week, I always give a dedication to Linda Dilly when I play that feature.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. Hopefully her name and her life will live on through this show just from you telling that story. So that's absolutely wonderful. Well, Stevie B, this has been another exciting interview. I enjoy talking to you.
I enjoy it as well.
Yeah, I'm inspired by you and everything that you're doing. So we hopefully will have many more years of working and collaborating together. Well, this has been Dr. Antherica Lane with Conversations with Dr. Lane, and we just had a conversation with Stevie B of Stevie B Media Productions. You have a good evening.
Thank you for having me. Peace, peace, peace.